honestly, a lot of the rules are we think absurd, honestly, and we get it. We want to be participating in clean air. We want to make sure we're good. Air intakes have little, if any, change, but you got to test every one of them, and you got to go through the process, and you got to fill out the paperwork, and you got to pay CARB their fee, and you got to get all that done to sell the part. And then there's rules like they have a standard. So they'll say the standard is it can't be more than X percent different than the factory part. Well, we're doing testing now to show, for example, an EF5 fuel injection system on an older, small block Chevy is better than putting the carburetor on.
Yeah, it improves the fuel efficiency.
But it doesn't meet their standard.
Right.
So it's not legal.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Off the Record. We have talked about Off the Record so many times, you already know what I'm going to say. But in case this is your first time listening to the show, you better know about Off the Record. You know why? Because they provide a crucial service to not only the enthusiast community, but anyone who owns and drives a car or motorcycle. If you get a ticket, which, don't be fooled, is not about safety. It's about generating money at your expense. Money for the police, money for the court system, money for the insurance companies, and you are opting into that system by pleading guilty to those moving violations. Never, ever, ever plead guilty to a moving violation. Fight it. You know why? Because Off the Record is here and they've got your back. Off the Record will connect you to a qualified partner attorney in the jurisdiction where you received the ticket. All you have to do is make an account with Off the Record. It's super easy. Then once you've got that account, take a photo or scan the ticket that you receive. Admit no guilt. Off the Record will then fight that ticket on your behalf, and an overwhelming percentage of the time, high 90s, they can get the points from that ticket off your record. And that means you're not paying for that mistake over and over and over again with court fees, with insurance premium adjustments, etc., etc. Go to offtherecord.com/TST or download the Off the Record app onto your smartphone and use code TST10 when making an account. That will get you, either of those will get you 10% off all services from Off the Record going forward. So what you want to do is make that account now. Download the app or go to the website, make the account now. That way you feel secure in your head that it's there if you need it. Then if you get pulled over, if you get a ticket, you go, this is no problem. I've got Off the Record. They're going to handle this. Not a week goes by that I don't get an email or a DM or from somebody who has used Off the Record and they have just made tickets go away. It's amazing. I've used them a whole bunch, and they are incredibly helpful. Like in terms of like tools you need on the road, smartphone with GPS, Waze, traffic, that kind of stuff, radar detector, and Off the Record. That is the holy trinity of road tripping tools because you're totally covered from every angle. You're not going to have the law sneak up on you. Offtherecord.com/TST or download the Off the Record app and use code TST10, get you 10% off. And of course, if you have been listening to the show for a while, you know the Patreon is where it's at. Of course, if you want to get an ad-free listening experience, get our podcasts early, have an extra show every month, and more, patreon.com/the Smoking Tire Podcast. But we've added a new tier, the championship tier. You get everything that comes with all the tiers leading up to Pro Driver, everything I just said, plus a private feed of our car review videos with no ads at all. And I mean no YouTube ads and no ads that I am personally doing. It's a totally ad-free premium Smoking Tire experience over there at the Champions tier. Hit up patreon.com/the Smoking Tire Podcast. All right, folks, this is a great show. We've got Mike Spagnola, who is the president of SEMA. For a lot of you out there, SEMA is really just the show in Vegas, the SEMA show that happens every year where you see all those Instagram posts of all the new aftermarket stuff coming out. But SEMA stands for Specialty Equipment Manufacturers Association. It is a lobbying arm. It is an engineering arm. They do so many things. If you modify your car in any way for any purpose, I guarantee you SEMA is involved. And so we're talking about regulations. We're talking about all the things that SEMA does to help aftermarket companies get their products to market safely, legally, the emissions testing, the CARB certification. We talk about why the EPA and CARB, although they might be well-meaning, are really targeting the wrong kinds of people and things in their fight to give us clean air. And all of that from a real gearhead, a true enthusiast, racer, collector, tuner, and more. Mike Spagnola of SEMA is here on the Smoking Tire Podcast.
My kids would laugh at me, you know.
If your hand, that should be a rule. Like, if your hands have to actually touch the ground to get out of the car, you have the wrong car. Yeah, I think I've definitely driven cars where that has been the case.
Yeah, and I'm in denial always. I'm like, I'm still young. I'm still
yeah. You're like the SEMA guy.
Yeah,
you got to drive like crazy stuff.
I can do these things. It's embarrassing now when we go out.
Good. Okay. Yeah. The idea that you're driving anything practical or comfortable, it's like, what are you trading? Are you a trader? Yeah. No. When I started buying. When I turned like 35 and started buying daily drivers instead of just like, no, I'm going to drive my lowered Corvette everywhere. That was I really went downhill in the eyes of my audience.
Yeah. That's this car. It's like, okay, I'm going to stay in a 2-seater, stick. You know, that's my daily driver.
Yeah, but that Z that's pretty good for every day.
Yeah.
Not a bad everyday car.
Yeah.
Did you? I only saw the back of it with your SEMA license plate, but is it like super modified?
It's got I put KWs on it and put a set of pilots on it and different wheels. And
I bet that's a game changer.
Oh, it's a game changer.
Because that car from the factory is a nice package for everybody.
Yeah, it's a little soft,
but it's a little soft and a little sort of unfocused when you start to push it.
Right.
And you're a racing driver.
Yeah.
I mean, you Formula Atlantic and,
Yeah, back then it was Formula B.
Right. Well, open wheel, race cars. Race cars. So you know what good is.
Right.
Yeah. So the KW's game changer on that car?
Yeah, KW's did, although I got to change the springs out. The suspension's the same as a 370, so I was able to bolt that stuff up. And so that was good, but it needs some different springs. They're working on that now.
Okay. I heard the measuring session for that car was like batshit.
Yeah.
I heard it had to add extra days and all kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then we did, I put a set of Brembos on it because it needed some good brakes. And put some 6-piston fronts and 4-piston rears.
There you go.
And
it's probably hustles pretty good
makes
now.
Pretty good. Yeah,
I bet it's
put some
nice.
intakes on it and we're playing with a tune.
Yeah, I mean, well, it wasn't slow in a straight line. The power was good. It was just soft. Yeah, and you could, and the launch was in Vegas.
Right.
When we're on the track in Vegas, it's like hot as hell out there, and I'm like, and we're just like smoking the brakes.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I wasn't upset, but I was like, guys, we're gonna need.
Yeah, and this is the proto, so it's supposed to have the better brakes and all that anyway. But I
better
2 weeks.
Better than what?
Yeah. 2 weeks they were off.
Well, I mean that car, the 86, and those, and even the Mustang, those are now platforms on which you do your own thing, which for SEMA is quite important.
That's what we are. Yeah. That's what we talk about a good palette.
Yeah, but I read your bio. You seem extremely legit. You are not a suit. You are a racing driver. You are a wrench.
Yeah.
You are not pigeonholed. We've got import. We've got domestic. We've got open wheeler. We've got German stuff. It's all over Italian stuff. I mean, you're really all over the place.
Yeah. It's it's that love of cars, right? It's that passion. It's I get asked often, what's your favorite car that you own, or what's your favorite car? And it's like,
awful question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like that's what's my favorite child?
Yeah,
I got 3 amazing kids, and
some people can answer that.
They can, and maybe I'll tell you something different in private, but not while we're on air. So
but that favorite car question, that's I understand why people ask it, but I feel like it represents sort of a lack of imagination.
Right.
Because, like, favorite car for doing what?
Right.
Favorite car for taking what drive?
Yeah.
For what circumstance?
Yeah.
Because, like, there isn't a car that you could do. When you're 20, you'd be like, yes, I would take a McLaren F1 to the grocery store.
Right.
I would drive that car every day. When you're,
Yeah.
our age, you're like, no.
Yeah, it's like, I love a 63 split window Corvette, all original.
6 days a year.
Yeah, you drive that car after about 2 hours. It's like I'm getting in my Mercedes and going home.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's go back to the very beginning.
Yeah.
Give me your car story that has earned you this job title. And there's a lot on the resume. I read the resume. There's a lot on there.
Yeah, thanks.
So give me the highlight reel.
It's one of those things I've been since I was 6 years old. I think just one of those guys that I grew up in the '60s, and the guys that made it back from Vietnam that lived on my street came back with some money in their pocket, and the guy across the street bought a '65 Mustang, and but my favorite was a guy, Danny Morheiser, came home. He got shot up a little bit, but he had some money in his pocket, and he bought a '63 split window Corvette, and immediately started putting different wheels on it and custom paint and different things. And gosh, I must have been about 9 or 10, and he took me up to Blair's Speed Shop with him on a ride, and we picked up some McGuire's car polish. It was still in the glass bottles back then.
Barry had just turned 75 then. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Shout out to Barry.
Yeah, it was just
whitest teeth in the business, man. That guy.
Well, he makes the polishing, right?
He's literally eternal.
Yeah,
like
he is. He has got more energy. He's 80.
Yeah,
I was with him Saturday night, and he's got more energy than anybody I know.
Yeah, because he drinks the stuff. Yeah. That's why. That's speed shine. That's his breakfast.
So
Speeding.
anyway, I got to polish the wheels on this car and buff on it. This guy let me do it, and I was just in love, man. I couldn't think about anything else, and was building model cars. I had a brother-in-law, Dino Diogordi, who had a sports car center up in Glendale, and he never treated me like a kid. He would take me up to the sports car center and let me help him change oil on Ferraris and do different things and ride a little scooter around the parking lot. And
is that shop still around?
No, it's long gone.
How old were you at that time?
Probably 10.
Oh,
Nice.
So that was the greatest day in the world.
Oh,
like, ride this motorized thing and work on these
and then
supercars.
you bill $150 an hour to the guy with the the Lusso, and there's
that's right. Yeah.
There's like a minor changing the oil.
Right? Two quarts short. Your engine blew up. We don't know why, so we got to rebuild it.
I'm sorry.
I think I know where these reliability rumors came from. Yeah.
So anyway, got to do that kind of stuff and just lived and breathed it. I wasn't a great student in school. Got to high school and took auto shop, and I can't tell you today my history teacher's name, but I can tell you all my shop teachers' names.
Sure.
50 years later, and so got to work on cars in auto shop. In my senior year of high school, I went to San Gabriel High, and the Alhambra School District had 3 schools: Marquette High, Alhambra High, San Gabriel High. And this prominent guy comes in, along with somebody from SEMA actually, and said, there's careers available in the aftermarket. I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to be in the car industry, but I really thought I was going to have to go to Detroit and work on an assembly line. I didn't know.
Right.
You're a young kid. You don't know about this whole thing. Back then, I read some magazines.
That happens today. People go say to me, I want to work in the car industry, and I go, it's huge.
Yeah.
Just throw a dart at the wall. I mean, there's everything from wheel companies to paint companies to OEMs to PR firms to suppliers of suppliers to companies you've never heard of that make some very important thing.
Yeah. So this guy came in. He said, I'm going to give a $200 scholarship to the guy that's the best guy in the auto shop. And we got through the end of the year. We had our automotive banquet. I won that $200 scholarship. The guy was Mickey Thompson.
Whoa. Oh, hell, there you go.
Yeah.
And that was probably like a whole semester's tuition.
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah. Tires?
Yeah. So, no, he just came in. And so he was the guy that kind of preached this whole aftermarket. And we stayed friends, all the way to the time he was killed.
Wow.
And he continued that scholarship program. I took it over after he died, and I just gave up my scholarships last week.
Oh, cool.
To the auto shop.
How do you get it now? Same auto shop?
Yeah, same auto shop.
Wow.
Same Alhambra School District still has 3 auto shops, which is in their 3 schools, which is just unheard of anymore.
Yeah. I bet they're placing people too.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you the number of very talented individuals I know that are getting into their 50s and 60s and are having trouble finding people who want to work on cars and it would pay well.
Right.
I mean, it would be a pretty good paying job.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then went to work at a Datsun dealership, sweeping floors and delivery driver.
Nice.
Right out of high school, kind of going to college, kind of trying to race. And, that was my infinity for Datsun 510s and 240Zs and Datsun Roadsters, and still have some of those cars today. But worked my way up to parts counterman and then parts manager, and then went to work for a group called BAP Geon, which was an import car parts chain back then. We were the importer for Weber carburetors.
Oh, cool.
And I wanted to expand my, I didn't want to be just a Datsun guy. I wanted to kind of understand the whole import car scene. And ended up there 13 years later as their VP of sales and marketing. Left there and ended up buying a company, little deal, and got that rolled up. And anyway, over the last several years, bought and sold and ran 5 different automotive companies. Did a little bit of a stint in the more in the replacement parts side, an alternator starter remanufacturer, but that thing grew to be a big monster, and we were selling AutoZone and Chief Auto Parts back then, and all those sort of guys. So anyway, just loved and breathed this deal, raced cars. Kind of stopped when I got married, but still kept my finger in it. And I kind of feel I'm still a student in the industry today. I love and breathe everything, and just love the industry. I mean, I'm really blessed to be in an industry and get to do things that I love.
Yeah.
And not everybody gets to do that. Not everybody gets to. I mean,
I do.
Yeah,
I'm
you
very
do.
lucky to. Yeah. But it's an industry of expression. Where yes, it's commerce. Yes, people are making things and selling things and making money, but people are expressing themselves through their cars, and so the aftermarket enables that.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is so important to so many people. I mean, there's a lot of folks I meet that perfectly nice people, but their car is their identity.
Right.
I mean, it's their Instagram name is
Right.
Mustang Guy 25 or whatever, and it's like, man, if they didn't have that ability to customize their car, like what would there be?
Right. It's a $52 billion industry.
Right.
Annual. So it's people want to individualize.
And so why is SEMA important? Because for a lot of people, SEMA is the show in Vegas.
Yeah.
Like that's
it.
That's all it is.
Know.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'll tell people I work for SEMA, and they say, "So where do you live in Vegas?" And I'm like, no, I don't live in Vegas. I live in Southern California, and our headquarters are here. And we do a lot of things the other 360 days a year, and that's really important to me. I came on. I sold my shares in my last company in 2013, and wasn't sure what I was going to do. Maybe start something with my kids, and or just retire after a few years or something, But SEMA asked me to come on to create this SEMA Garage idea, and I said I'd do it on a 3-year deal, and that was 10 years ago.
Nice.
But it's important because we got to protect the hobby. I mean, that's really there are so many things we do. Certainly our efforts in DC are really important to the industry, and more so than people realize. And, I'm not a political guy. I wasn't a political guy. I didn't, you hear some of these things and you're like, all right, we'll still be okay. We're under attack. We really are. I mean, this whole change that the EPA is doing, this whole change in EVs, and EVs are awesome and they're great and they need to be part of our car culture. But the government's really put their thumb on the scale to say it's EVs and that's it. And there's so many other opportunities out there. There's, we're still exploring hydrogen. We're still exploring synthetic fuels and renewable fuels and E85 and propane and all those sort of things. And we've got to continue to fight to make sure that we can still drive our cars and not push a button and get in one.
Right. Well, like I was going to work my way slowly to the EPA stuff, but we're here now. So, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
So, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Down
no, it's okay because, like, I'm a progressive in basically every way one can be a progressive.
Right.
And I like EVs for what they are, which are most of the time toasters. It's totally fine. I have a Mach-E. It's a great toaster.
Yep.
There's nothing I would rather drive around traffic in Los Angeles.
Yeah, great
nothing. Except maybe a Taycan. But I think it's important to and you know, nobody's anti clean air.
Right.
Nobody is anti saving the planet. But I think there's the government, I think, my understanding is they tend to go after highly visible things that aren't really the real problem. I mean, I feel like cars with aftermarket intakes.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're like rolling coal.
Right. Exactly.
I get the roll. You should not be able to have a car that does that.
Agree.
It's really gross.
Right.
And after the Dieselgate stuff, I get it.
Right.
But I think it's in terms of modifying ECUs and put air intakes and certain exhaust systems, like there's not a huge difference.
It's none.
And it's a percentage of a percentage.
Right.
And you've got like ships that are burning bunker oil and aircraft that are flying short haul instead of a train. And there's but it
Private
seems
jet travel increased like some crazy.
enormous increases in Gulfstream 5 sales.
Right.
So it seems like it's a lot of energy focused on maybe not the right thing.
It is. We're the target, and there's so much to unpack there. But we created the SEMA Garage 10 years ago to help our members get through the EO process. So if you develop any product that affects fuel or air, you got to get this CARB EO to be legal to sell. And if you don't get it, the fine is $37,000 per part sold. I mean,
that's if you're the company that makes it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Although they've gone after resellers.
And it's not per SKU, it's per individual part sold.
Correct.
Like I sold 10 intakes.
Yeah, you're done.
It's
Yeah.
$370,000.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. Now they tend to negotiate that down, but that is the rule. And so we created this emissions lab to help our manufacturers because the paperwork was cumbersome. They couldn't find lab time. It was expensive to get a lab. They were fighting with CARB all the time.
Yeah.
So we've now got 22 people on staff that just fill out the application for our member, find the vehicle, do the testing. We've got 2 labs, one in California, one in Detroit. Submit that paperwork to CARB, push it through CARB, and get them their EO. But it's a lot of work. We don't make money on this deal. But it's to save our industry.
Sure.
And honestly, a lot of the rules are we think absurd. Honestly, and we get it. We want to be participating in clean air. We want to make sure we're good. Air intakes have little, if any, change. But you got to test every one of them, and you got to go through the process, and you got to fill out the paperwork, and you got to pay CARB their fee, and you got to get all that done to sell the part. And then there's rules like they have a standard. So they'll say the standard is it can't be more than X percent different than the factory part. Well, we're doing testing now to show, for example, an EFI fuel injection system on an older, small block Chevy is better than putting the carburetor on.
Yeah, it improves the fuel efficiency.
But it doesn't meet their standard.
Right.
So it's not legal.
So that's such a great point because, in California, if you want to change the engine, you can change to a more modern engine, but you usually have to keep all of the standard emissions equipment. And if that doesn't fit, then you can't do the swap, which is silly. But like just putting EFI on would clean up, the
absolutely
the
drivability and cold start and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, wow.
But it doesn't meet the standard. And so we're doing a bunch of work right now to try to show CARB and EPA to say, look, we can stay with this carburetor, and this is what it's doing, and we can put this, Holley or whatever EFI system on the deal, and it doesn't meet your standard, but it is X amount better. Why are you going after these guys and finding them for that kind of system?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but is there a world where we can have it all? Folks, got to take a quick break from the action for Blackview. You know them. We've been talking about them. And today, it's all about the Blackview DR970X dash cam. Whether you're a professional driver or a cautious car owner, the Blackview DR970X is the perfect companion for your journeys. With its state-of-the-art technology, this dash cam captures everything that happens on the road in stunning detail, providing you with crystal clear video evidence in case of an accident. And thanks to its cloud connectivity, you can access your footage from anywhere at any time using the Blackview app. With the Blackview DR970X series dash cam, you can rest easy when you leave your car parked outside. The dash cam comes with native parking mode, which means it can be hardwired to your vehicle's fuse panel out of the box while preventing your car's battery from draining. Parking mode will activate automatically when ignition is switched off to keep guard on your vehicle. And thanks to that video buffer, the few seconds leading to impact or motion detection events are also recorded. This means in case of a hit and run on your parked vehicle, you will have irrefutable video proof of what happened before and after. When paired with Blackview Cloud, your dash cam automatically saves event videos to the cloud in real time as they happen. That way you can still have valuable evidence even if your dash cam gets unplugged or stolen. The DR970X series comes in single and dual camera versions. The front camera captures every little detail in crisp 4K UHD quality, while the rear camera comes with a full HD Sony Starvis sensor that ensures best clarity under any light. There's a version for taxi and Uber drivers with an infrared driver-facing camera. So get the best dash cam protection and reliability with the Blackview DR970X series dash cams. Go to blackview.com/TST. That's BLACKVUE.com/TST to learn more about the DR970X series dash cams and use code TIRE to get 10% off any Blackview dash cam or parking mode accessory with free shipping for orders over $200. Again, that's BLACKVUE.com/TST. Promo code TIRE to get 10% off any Blackview dash cam or parking mode accessory and free shipping for orders over $200.
But is there a world where we can have it all?
Yeah, no. I wish I could say that. It is. You're working with government agencies and we get it. But it's we do a lot of work with CARB. We try to work closely with them. We help them get more staff because the bottleneck of getting these EOs through is a problem as well. But it's an everyday challenge. It really is. We spend millions of dollars a year in our DC office, in our labs, in our staff to help our members get this stuff through. And then we move now to these new EPA rules that the Biden administration's putting out and EPA is putting out that they would like to propose, or they have proposed, and they're not attainable. I mean,
What kind of rules? I'm not intimately familiar.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about?
So the proposed new rules are, I think it's another 13% per year cleanup of ICE engines. Mm-hmm. And what they've done is said it's really EV. We know that by 2032 they want 65% of new cars sold to be EVs. They've really put their thumb on the scale to say it's EV and it's EV only. And we are saying, and several people are saying, look, let technology continue to evolve. Renewable fuels, synthetic fuels, again, hydrogen. Toyota and Honda are both pushing on the hydrogen thing a lot. There are many ways to get cleaner air, and it shouldn't just be EVs. Forget about the infrastructure needed.
Do you think EVs are sort of a because they're zero emissions,
right?
Because they're quiet, because it's a technology that is sort of proven in its current form,
right?
That it's just like, to them who are not enthusiasts or scientists, it's a no-brainer to them.
Yeah.
And do you think it's because cars on the road are such a visible thing that if you force EVs into the mix, it will appear to people's own two eyes that the problem is being solved?
Yeah, those are all great points, and it's hard to get in the minds of all these different, legislators. But there's some of that for sure. And it is the answer. They're not clean. I mean, we know the carbon footprint to make the batteries and the mining and all that sort of thing. We know what recycle looks like. The new regs, they've taken that out. So
they're cleaner than a bad gas car.
For sure.
They're not necessarily cleaner than a Prius or a Corolla that's sold near where it's built and doesn't have to be shipped all over. Right. So like you could move cleaner, the scales around.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not. But you're still forcing the consumer into an expensive new product rather than allowing choice or forcing industry to make those adjustments.
Right. And that's what we're saying. We're saying, look, EV is part of our future. We get it. There are other technologies. There are studies out now to say if we actually allow all these other industries to continue to move forward, and if the government put as much money into them as they do EV, that we actually clean up the air sooner, because all these technologies together will clean up the air because they can be put into place sooner than if we just wait for EVs to kind of take over the world.
Well, that's what Toyota's argument against full EV and in pro hybrid is for the price and the minerals of one half-ton truck EV, I could build 15 Priuses that will get into more people's hands now, don't need to be plugged in, so we can allow the infrastructure to ramp up, and that's kind of it's electrification with small battery packs and 48-volt systems versus giant 3-ton
battery packs. Yeah, so that's just one of the things we're trying to work on in DC right now, and what SEMA does, and then it's all the other things of, there are some people that would like you not to be able to lift your truck even 3 inches. There are people that don't want different lights. So there's all these rules and regs that come in from time to time that we just say, show us where this makes sense,
Is there the arguments, as I understand it, against lifted trucks are pedestrian safety related, cyclist safety, because you're changing the relationship between this poor guy's body and the grill and the bumper. So that's not entirely without merit, right?
But 12-inch lifts and 40-inch tires, may not be the way we want to go. But we have in our new garage in Detroit, SEMA garage in Detroit, we have an ADAS technology center where we're doing a lot of work to understand what all those sensors and cameras do when you do lift a vehicle. Yeah. And we'll have our white paper out here soon, but we took a new Chevy Silverado. We did all those testing, both static and dynamic. You've seen the dynamic testing where the car's running down the road and the balloon person steps out in front and the vehicle stops. We did static testing and dynamic testing at stock height, at a leveling kit, at a 3-inch and a 6-inch lift, and honestly, those systems all still work. And so there's some modification that needs to be done, but that's the kind of work that we're doing as well.
What about the other way? What if you lower a car?
So it's funny. We had an Audi R8. We had somebody call us that they lowered an Audi R8. The car wouldn't drive. It stopped because the cameras were looking.
Because the sensors were
staring at the ground. Yeah. And so
that might be for the best. That car's pretty low. You're not making it better by lowering it.
So so we're doing some of that work as well. Yeah. We're doing some of that work, and it's but those are the sort of things we have to invest in to make sure that our members know what's going on. We did a lot of work in that. It's called FMVSS 126 rollover testing. When you lift a truck, do all those. Is there a change in rollover? And so we're active in all those sort of areas because we do want to make sure modifications are safe. We do want people to still individualize their vehicle, and otherwise we're all going to be driving white box EVs down the road if we're not.
Is it I have said in the past and potentially baselessly, I don't know, but that one of the things that could rather than this sort of anticipation and embracing of autonomous vehicles and boring cars, I have said that we could improve road safety in a variety of ways without inventing anything new.
Right.
We could change road design, for instance. We could, paint more cross. I mean, like you could, like, and a good example. I lived on a street over by the beach. I don't live there anymore. Ironically, the street was called Speedway. And it was called that because it was the first paved road in Venice. And you could drive 15 instead of 5 because it was paved, right?
That's awesome.
One-way road, and there were no painted markings on it at all. Just occasional signs up there. One day, the city comes in and paints some lines and paints some arrows on the. I mean, I'm talking about one day of painting, and people would rip up this road at 40 miles an hour, sometimes the wrong way.
Wow.
One day and some paint, and that stopped entirely. And we have now improved safety of this 2-mile stretch of road dramatically with paint. Yeah. And so nothing new needed to be invented. We didn't need some Silicon Valley guy to fix this. Like, it was paint. And we have that, lots of it. Right. And so we've got that. We've also got, what I was getting to was, in Germany, they have the TÜV standards, which are very high, but they sort of, not 100% guarantee, but they do a lot to ensure that modifications that are put onto cars are safe. Yeah. And is that a sort of system that we could could embrace?
And we're working towards it. We're doing some work now called SEMA certified, where we're going to be able to do that sort of work. One of my goals when I came on to SEMA was, let's face it, there have been products out there, aftermarket products, that haven't always been the best. And so the SEMA Garage was developed to help manufacturers with CAD data. We've got engineers on staff, 3D printers, these measuring sessions we do.
From reading the bio in the Garage, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like a very cool place where it's like, if I'm a shop that wants to design something, but I can't afford a 3D printer, I can't afford CAD and all this other stuff. You guys provide that like an incubator.
We do all that.
That's very cool.
So we'll bring name the brand new vehicle in. So we'll work with GM and Ford and Nissan and Toyota and all Honda, everybody, and we'll get the vehicles. We had the new Bronco 6 months before it came out. And we did these measuring sessions where we brought these Broncos in. We literally tore them apart. We tore the suspension out of them. We tore all these parts off of them. We did scanning with a CMM machine where you can virtually scan anything and put it back into CAD. We did all that sort of work alongside our manufacturers and developed all these different products alongside of them. And then they came back with their raw parts and their prototypes, and we fitted them on, and in some cases put them through the lab and did emissions testing. But we had all these products ready to go before that Bronco came out. Yeah. And that's good for the OE, because now those that do want to individualize see that Bronco and they see it on some website, magazine still, customized with all those different products and uniqueness. And that helps them sell more vehicles. The guy says, I want to buy that car.
Well, do you have, I feel like when a manufacturer embraces the aftermarket with an enthusiast vehicle, which most of them are smart enough to do.
Right.
It's very rare these days that you see a manufacturer selling an enthusiast vehicle where they don't, in some way, embrace customization. Yeah. And sometimes it's a little wink, wink, but
it could be a little skunk works.
Well, yeah. Can you? Are the Hemi engines still untunable? Wasn't that a thing for a while?
Yeah, not anymore.
Oh, they're not. They figured that out. Okay.
Even the C8, it was like, you're not going to break this car.
Right. Yeah. We talked to Mitch McKee of M Engineering about the untunable engine, and he's like, that's all. There's always a ... after that. It's
it takes us a little while. It could take a year or two, but
right. But is it? When you're talking about customizing a vehicle but leaving the engine alone, that's when they're like, all right, whatever, have at it, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's still those within the OEs that are like, my vehicle's perfect. Why would you touch it? This is a perfect platform.
Really?
And, that's
so weird.
I'll tell this story that I've always had a great relationship with Ford, and I've done work for them and some Skunk Works stuff. But
all right, we'll give them the GT.
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah. So when the S197, when the 2005 Mustang came out, I had a body on white in 2004, and actually had some Ford designers in my shop, and we were developing body kits, and some for private label and some for our own use, and through Ford. And anyway, car came out. I had the car at the SEMA show. They took it to the Detroit Auto Show. They put it in their booth at the Detroit Auto Show. It won a design award. Edsel Ford hands me this award in the Detroit Auto Show booth, and had lunch with him and others. I get a call from my general manager back at the shop that we're being sued by Ford. So there was this.
So they literally give you an award in one hand and a lawsuit in the other?
And it was kind of this good cop, bad cop deal. And it was a misunderstanding. It was a licensing deal that had gone awry. But I tell that story because there's always people in every OE that are like, yeah, we're with you. Yeah. And there's others that are like, my vehicle is perfect. The platform is perfect.
That's so interesting.
Why would you modify the Mona Lisa?
Well, because that's a dumb attitude to take, because it reflects a lack of understanding of car culture, and also a lack of understanding that when you modify a car, you're just pulling the levers of priority one way or the other.
Exactly.
Okay, you built this car that is a well-rounded package, and it's a row of 7s.
Right.
Well, I'm willing to go to 4 here to go to 9 here.
Right.
I'll
make the ride less comfortable.
It rides like shit on potholes.
Yeah.
But I got 1.02 G
right.
on the skid pad, and your car only did 0.9.
So at the end of the day, they want to sell more vehicles, and that's what we pitch. Is that look? There's always.
By the way, I bought one in order to modify it. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, if you can show the OE that we're going to help them sell more vehicles,
right?
And there's a bit of a wink, nod sometimes, but because they'll slide you a vehicle, and let you work on it. But overall, it's been they're great relationships. When we know, I'm sure a lot of the same people at all the OEs, and they get it, and we got to preserve that. We got to continue to be able to do that.
Is it possible to demonstrate, to go back to the EPA, is it possible to demonstrate that what we are talking about is such a small percentage of cars, and they're not always, in some cases, rarely are they daily driven cars. Sometimes they are full-on race cars, that the resources that are being allocated to this mathematically make no sense? Is that because you're not talking to car enthusiasts over there?
Right. No, they don't. They don't care. We've tried that argument. It's here's the standard and here's the rule, and you got to be within these bounds of the rule. So we actually can play within those bounds. It's when the paperwork gets hung up, and when we can send 2 air intakes in from 2 different brands of companies to CARB, and one gets through and the other one gets dragged out.
And are they fundamentally identical?
Exactly. An air intake, there's not a lot you can do to it.
Why does something like that happen? They hold a grudge?
It's just somebody different within the bureaucratic.
We say that shit over and over. Pick your bureaucratic system.
Yeah.
It lives and dies by one person's mood on that day.
Yeah.
The DMV, the fucking cops, it doesn't matter. It's that one person and how you interact with them on that day.
All right.
There is no blanket rule.
So we literally go up to CARB, on a normal basis with spreadsheets full of.
Please be Steve. Please be Steve. Please. You're like, oh no, you
that
go
is
first.
The dirty truth.
You go first. Yeah. You go first. I'm still shuffling my papers here. Like,
what kind of mood is Carl in today? Is Carl in a good mood? You go after lunch after they've eaten. That's
yeah. So anyway, it's not quite that bad, but we got to work with them. So anyway, that's a lot of what SEMA does. It's protecting our right to drive and modify and enjoy the hobby and the enthusiast, and promote all that, to promote, cars and coffees and all that sort of stuff. Just the right to continue to do those things. And you would say, well, wait a minute, that nobody's trying to stop that. I got to tell you, daily stuff comes up.
Well, I don't think nobody's trying to stop that. I think all you have to do is look to Los Angeles and the life cycle of a Cars and Coffee event is not long.
No.
There are in Malibu in particular, the depiction of the Malibu Sheriff's Department in The Big Lebowski is shockingly accurate.
Yeah.
Stay out of my beach community. People who move into a house on some of the best driving roads in the world, and then complain that they have to listen to cars and motorcycles. It's like moving onto a golf course and then suing the golf course for balls coming in your yard. It's insane.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things? Are there things that we enthusiasts do that bring it on ourselves?
Yeah, for sure. The rolling coal thing is exactly what happens. The burnouts, leaving the Cars and Coffee, that's not cool. I mean, and so those sort of things don't help us. And
if you do illegal or dangerous things, it brings heat. I mean,
yeah. So we get that, and we don't, we speak out against rolling coal and DPF deletes and all that sort of stuff. Not cool. Not cool.
I think one of the best things about cars today is that you actually don't gain much by deleting cats anymore.
Right.
Yeah. There is so little point to a cat delete. Yeah. Like you get no power. Stop it.
There's two for people that are new to the show. We've had two guests on that have spoken about both cat delete and rolling coal. So we had Steve Dinan came on and talked about the difference in horsepower he gets from cat delete to no cat delete. It was like 8. And he's like, it's basically negligible when you're talking about like 680 horsepower.
Right. And you get carbon monoxide poisoning in
traffic.
And
you're sitting behind it, like, and then we had Gale Banks on, like king of performance diesel. And we talked about this was like 8 years ago, about rolling coal. And he's like, I hate seeing that because I'm watching horsepower go out the exhaust pipe. It's like, it's so stupid. And this guy builds 5,000 horsepower semi-truck Pikes Peak cars.
No, and it's crazy even, this is just another little pet peeve of mine, but you'll see on social media, the guys trying to sell their cars, and they're listing all these illegal parts on their car, and downpipes and cat deletes and everything else. And
don't put your Instagram on your window, you idiot.
Yeah, it's like, hello. If you don't think that there are people at EPA.
Do they have to catch a predator for that?
Definitely.
To catch a violator?
We see
That's
these.
actually kind of
we see these lawsuits all the time that are coming through on SEMA members because they're selling parts that are illegal. And they're like, how did they catch us?
Well, how did they catch us? Yeah. Your clients literally advertise that you're doing this. Yeah. Oh, man, we just talked about this on another show. We were driving back from a shoot, and we saw someone almost hit us, weaving on the highway in an Audi RS Q8 with no license plate. Yeah. But the license plate, instead of a plate, was just a giant logo of a well-known tuner company.
Oh, yeah.
And Zach literally DM'd them and was like, is this your shop car? And they're like, no. And we're like, because here's what just happened. And they're like, we just sold that guy this. Like, we know who that is. We just sold him this plate thing. And it's like, this person is like being a banner for shitbaggery.
Right.
And anyone who cares is going to go straight back to this company because he's a billboard.
Right.
So, don't put your Instagram on your car and then list your illegal mods, you idiots.
Yeah.
But I did want to talk to you about, I got 2 DMs in the last 24 hours. Again, somebody with a stock vehicle, I believe it was a BRZ or an 86, goes to a track day. RTV pickup issue is known, blows his engine, warranty not covered. Do you guys ever get involved in stuff like that? Or conversely, the very well-known and widely circulated guy who gets pulled over and reffed with a stock exhaust?
Right. Yeah, so we do. So the exhaust thing is all the time, for sure. And even some bills will come through where there was just one in New York where you had to run stock exhaust only, so no modification at all. And there's a limit. There's a noise limit, right? And even exhausts that meet that requirement, they were saying no, it's an aftermarket exhaust.
Yeah.
So we get involved in those things all the time.
So what happens when someone with a stock exhaust is pulled over for loud exhaust? and in California you might be sent to the ref or and there's other states have other things, but. Right. But it's like, well, this exhaust is legal to sell in this state, and the onus is now on the individual somehow. What do you do?
Yeah, so we get those calls. We try to refer them to different places, but you do a lot of times have to go to the ref. When it's an aftermarket exhaust or a SEMA manufacturer exhaust, we can get involved. If it's stock, it's a little different, but we do have to send them to the ref.
It seems like that's getting into this weird space, like that Hyundai Elantra story we all saw.
Yeah.
It was like, well, it's a track mode, but now you're in this murky thing where you're selling a piece of equipment to people, totally stock, but somewhere they need to be told you can only use this on the track.
Well, and the problem was the ref allegedly in that instance tested the car incorrectly. Because when you restart the Elantra N, it goes back into normal mode, which is quiet, and the law says that that cycle has to put it in. But you can have a louder mode, but it can't stay louder through a startup cycle, right? I think that's the rule.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you're right. If it's got to be tested wrong, so that's frustrating. It's really frustrating. And then the warranty deal is, there's an act that says. You have to, if your vehicle's been modified. So we've seen it.
Would that be Magnuson Moss?
Magnum Moss, yeah. That guys that put bigger tires on the car, and then the motor blows, and they take it to the dealer and says it's because of larger tires. Well, you got to be able to prove that the larger tires cause the motor to fail, and a lot of people don't know that, and they throw up their hands or they pay the number, or but.
What about in the case of what we're seeing with these 86 cars, where the car is advertised as being suitable for recreational track activities, and then warranty claims are being catastrophic?
They give you a NASA membership, right, with the car?
So they give you a NASA driving school or 2-day driving school or something with the car, and then if you go on track,
yeah, that's fightable.
Yeah, my guess is that's a service manager at a dealer, and if it gets escalated, they would probably cover it.
Yeah.
But do you guys ever get involved in anything like that? Or if the car is stock, it's like not on you.
Yeah. If stock we don't do a lot with, but if it's modified and there's an argument, we get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
To go back to the Magnuson Moss, because a lot of people, when you talk about modifying your car, people will immediately in the comments on Instagram or whatever go, yeah, say goodbye to your warranty, and that's not really how it works.
Look, I lowered a truck once, and the rear end went out, and the dealership tried to say it's because you lowered the truck, and we said, show us where that makes a difference. And I had to go around. I had to get the service manager. I finally had to get the area manager. They warranted it. It was a truck that had less than 3,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
But
let's say it was just hypothetical the other way. You lifted a truck on giant 37-inch super swampers, and you observably did increase the mass of these tires now. Do you think that claim might have gone the other way?
It could have. Yeah, for sure. The Act says that you have to be able to prove that the modification you did affected the warranty.
What do you think the standard of prove is?
It's
pretty loose.
It's pretty loose. Yeah, it's pretty loose, but it can be either way. And look, at the end of the day, I think most OEs want to make sure their customers satisfied. A lot of OEs are doing modifications anyway. I mean, you can buy the new Silverado, with a lift kit on it.
The new Colorado you can get with 37s, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think that is a result of them looking at the aftermarket and going,
absolutely.
we're leaving money on the table by doing this?
Absolutely.
Ford certainly was doing it.
Jeep. If you look at Jeep, I mean, their Mopar catalog is full of Dana 44s and all sorts of different parts. So for sure they see it. Now, and all those guys are at the SEMA show and they walk the aisles, and we'll see accessories that some widget guy made that SEMA member, and he shows up at a booth at the SEMA show and he sells something that's pretty hot and new, and it's the OEs 2 years later have it on the vehicle. So
I remember the Bronco launch. They mentioned it many times. They were very proud of the number of parts you could buy from Ford at the time the vehicle launched to customize your Bronco.
Yeah. They've been great to work with. That vehicle, they worked closely with SEMA manufacturers, us, SEMA Garage, to develop products for the aftermarket. And they also had their own line of products. But you got to realize an OE can't they might come up with 30 accessories, 40 accessories. They can't, SEMA manufacturers can come up with 500.
Yeah.
And a lot of, smaller manufacturers, SEMA manufacturers tend to be about 80% of them are $5 million or less a year. They're not big companies, but they can make a living out of that, right? And so they can afford to sell 200 of a part a year or 300 of a part a year. That's golden for them. An OE can't afford to do that. I mean, they have to be able to sell masses of accessories.
Are there ever cases where, when you're an OE walks through and they see someone's widget and they go, "Oh, that's cool," and then like a year or two later they have a widget that looks oddly similar?
I've had that happen to me.
Oh, yeah, that's got to be hard.
And it's sometimes it's flattery, is one thing, but yeah, that happens. But some of the OEs, Toyota right now is working on a program where they're working with aftermarket manufacturers to say, hey, we want to be able to help you bring your quality up, have these accessories available. We'll sell them even through our dealerships, but they've got to be Toyota certified first.
Yeah.
So you're seeing that. You'll see a lot of that happen at the SEMA show this year. Very forward-looking, Toyota is.
I've heard some stories also of catch and kill like situations where potential disruptors are seen at the SEMA show or whatever, and then bought by OEMs, and then that person's like on an island somewhere, never to be seen again.
Yeah, we hear those things.
Yeah.
We hear, we know of some designers that even been tied up, with OEs where they've got some pretty cool stuff, but they tie them up on a contract and don't free them up to do other work.
Yeah. What have you seen in the last couple of years? The SEMA show it's a fun time. In the last 15 years, I've probably been 8 or 9 times. Right. I don't go every year, but it's overwhelming. When you do go, it's fucking crazy. And you get a pair of New Balances ready.
For sure. It's 30 miles of always.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, it's just insane. And there's some things that are sort of the same stuff year after year.
Right.
People who are making radiators for 32 Fords and whatnot.
Right.
But in the last 3 or 4 years, what have you seen pop up that is like, oh, this is the future?
Yeah. So EV conversions for sure.
Yeah. Last year that was like everything.
Yeah. EV conversions, and so it used to be you had to take a Tesla crashed car and take all the guts out of it and put it into your '69 Camaro, if you like. And now what we're seeing are different manufacturers come up, battery pack manufacturers,
plug and play.
Yep, even just motors, component parts, AEMs doing a bunch of controller work, and so that's definitely a thing. The overland deal is bigger than ever, and that's really hot right now. So, and not just with trucks or Jeeps or whatever, you're seeing them on smaller crossover, vehicles.
Do you see the Polaris?
Polaris now is like a fully enclosed.
That's the sign of the times, I feel like.
Yeah. That's interesting because, I suppose there are a few states where that thing would be street legal, but it doesn't. Having doors and windows doesn't necessarily change the fact that you need a truck or SUV to get it to the trail.
Yeah, I think it's really weird.
It's really strange.
Yeah. So and then old, LX 470 Lexus, they're changing those over to guys are buying those up now for crossover. Or for doing camping.
LX Lexuses and Cayenne diesels.
Right.
Cayenne diesels are where it's at.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
So definitely that market's hot. And then there's always just little pop-up stuff all over the place. So the show continues to grow. We're this year's show is going to be over 2,000 vendors. We're over 1 million square feet, 3 million square feet of space because we do all these other things outside.
Yeah.
And then this year we're going to have something new. The SEMA show for consumers has been one of those, would love to go. It's a B2B show, so business to business, so you can't necessarily get in. People find ways. We get it.
Oh, they flip tickets.
Yeah.
There's a scalping situation happening. Yeah.
But it's still tough for consumers to get in. So this year we're creating something
new.
You
guys clamped down on the spouse tickets. And
we did
like
all that. Yeah,
last year it was like there were some new rules I read when we got our passes that was about spouses and brothers and whatever.
Because you're supposed to be in the industry. It's supposed to be an industry show.
Yeah.
And look, the guy that sells exhaust systems, gets his buddy in. We get it, but
You're like, wow, there's a lot of same-sex marriage in here.
Yeah,
real
there is.
spike compared to last year.
The overlap.
That was the spouse.
That was the
deal.
tip.
Yeah, that was the tip.
Tip off, you guys.
Yeah.
It's really
when you
funny.
see Mary on a 6'3" burly guy.
Like, so you're saying that 80% of the attendees of SEMA are in a same-sex marriage, and somehow also they're building 32 Fords? Okay, yeah.
You call it Glad. That's not accurate.
So anyway, this year we're going to do this thing called SEMA Fest, which is consumer facing. You can buy a ticket to go to the show on Friday, the actual SEMA show, and then we're creating a festival, and this will be our first year. Where it'll go Friday and Saturday. We took another 40 acres over near Circus, and
near Circus, okay,
yeah. And we're going to have a festival. So
like what define festival?
Yeah, so all the cool car stuff, off-road drifting, hoonigan style stuff, and then music. So we're going to have
what bands?
I wish I could tell you right now.
Oh,
We are
you've
close.
added a grid life.
So
wing.
you've
okay.
Yeah,
basically.
but bigger.
I'm sure they're competitors,
crazy.
but
No, so big name bands are coming. We think big name music. So we'll do a Friday night concert and a Saturday night concert.
Cool.
Craft foods.
Oh, that's fun.
And allowing consumer. And here, let me tell you the big vision. The big vision is this: is that we see kind of this whole taking over of Las Vegas as something that, if you think about South by Southwest or any of those big events, over the next 5 years, taking over Las Vegas for Car Month.
Like you weren't already taking over Las Vegas.
Well, but look,
we're gonna need some bird scooters.
Yeah, we won't be able to monetize all of it, but that's cool. If the goal is you've got NASCAR that can come in with us. We've already got NHRA there. Our event F1's coming in, and so we're partnering with all those sort of people, of those groups, and then what we want to see is the Ferrari Owners Club of Florida driving in, and the Mustang Owners Club of New York coming in, and
talk about a flat road trip, Florida to Nevada, not a hill in sight.
Yeah. So just emerging. If you think about all those other places. I mean, Pebble Beach is awesome, but it's one road in and one road out, and the hotels are limited and the food is limited. And this is an opportunity to take over an area where hotels are great, food is great, the roads are good.
It could be very interesting.
And
it could be very interesting.
Yeah, and just be a Sturgis of the car industry.
Hopefully, the good things about Sturgis.
Yes, yeah, and
Sturgis is a shit show.
And celebrate cars, celebrate.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's good to be in Nevada because there aren't actually laws there, as it turns out. You can do anything you want.
Tarmac's really good for the most part. I was going to ask, has the industry expanded or contracted in the last 8 years as things have gone hybrid and emissions restrictions?
It continues to expand.
Oh, wow.
We were 48 billion a few years ago. We're 52 billion now. More and more manufacturers. The whole tuner industry. I mean, you're right. We've been known as 32 Fords and muscle cars and all that, and even lifted trucks. I've had this deal since I got to SEMA where I personally like to count the show cars because you have to fill out an application. And so I watch all that. And the tuner Japanese car side of our industry is as big as the truck market now.
Yeah.
And
well, the good stuff is importable.
Right.
We've gotten to that point now.
Yeah. So. And that's the youth market, of course. And, so we're watching that really closely and trying to continue to pour some water on that and watch that grow because it's and that's kind of my bag anyway, so it's fun. But that's our next generation. That's our next Gail Banks that are out there doing those sorts of things.
Is anyone talking about, and it's a niche within a niche, but improving or streamlining the process of making imported JDM cars legal for California?
Yeah, that's trying to go the other way.
Really?
Yeah.
They're trying to just get them out entirely?
Yeah. They're trying to get it.
I mean, I don't, how is a 1999 Nissan somehow worse than a 1969 Camaro?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
It's not. And again, this is the battle that we have.
What are you talking about? 300 cars in the whole state?
Right.
You're talking about such a tiny number of cars.
You're right. I mean, why aren't we going after other areas?
I mean, I don't want to just squeeze the water balloon and go. But what about? But it at least from the inside looking out, it feels like a extraordinary number of resources pointed at a very small thing.
It is. Yeah, it definitely
results in no dent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, that is part of the argument. But they've got standards, and meanwhile, we're trying to match those standards. And it's and look, you can still make horsepower. We had a Shelby Mustang in that we were able to get over 900 horsepower out of it with some aftermarket products and still be CARB legal.
Oh, are you talking about Matt D'Andrea's car?
No, but Matt's car.
Have you seen his car?
Yeah.
Matt D'Andrea, who I just saw at Cars and Coffee, moderator from the Adam Carolla show, has a new Mustang Mach-1 with twin turbos on it, CARB legal.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
And he's 100% CARB legal EO. I don't know the exact number. I want to say he told me it was 6 something at the wheels.
Right.
Up to 11 PSI of boost.
And still make it CARB legal.
And it was CARB legal.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, that's so I actually think, it's not that it isn't possible.
Right.
It's that companies in a lot of ways just don't have the resources to go through the approval process. So that's why you guys doing that on their behalf is such a tide lifts all boats sort of thing.
Right. And our garage in Diamond Bar, which was really, when we built it, we said, would they come? And they came. We've been running 2 shifts there. We just built this new 45,000 square foot facility in Detroit that we'll be able to handle about 4 times more capacity. Because there is, manufacturers do get it for the most part. I mean, there are rogue guys out there, but manufacturers do get it for the most part. The bureaucracy of trying to get everything through is still tough.
When I went to Germany last year and I visited Alpina, great folks, really cool. They do a lot more with those cars than I thought that they did before. I thought it was wheels and body kits, but they're doing a lot over there. But at the same time, it was both a bigger and a smaller facility than I expected, and about a third of their total square footage at Alpina was devoted to emissions compliance.
Wow!
They had those big sniffer things. They had a giant refrigerator to do cold starting.
Right.
They had these clean rooms, and then they had all this diesel stuff, and they just had and this is this is a company that is it's owned by BMW, but they're making modest power. It's not huge. And the amount of resources that Andreas told me that they dedicated towards the compliance was just extraordinary.
It's huge.
And it's the kind of stuff that if you're not the size of an Alpina, you just can't do it.
We threw over $12 million into this new lab in Detroit. I mean, it's and that's SEMA. We make money on our show in membership, and that money's reinvested.
So if a company wants to have you guys do their compliance, do they pay an incremental fee for it, or is it kind of a charity thing?
No, there's an incremental fee, but even with that incremental fee, we lose money on that service.
Yeah.
But it's because again, we make our money on the show.
Yeah, but it's worth it in other ways.
Yeah. SEMA is owned by its membership.
Yeah.
It's a membership organization.
Hypothetically, I'm Tuner Company Z, and I've got an air intake.
Yeah.
What does it cost to go through a round of that process?
So,
give or take.
Yeah, it's somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Right. Yeah.
That's reasonable.
That's reasonable.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then we've seen it take up to 2 years.
Yeah.
And we've seen it take as little as 90 days. And honestly, it's 4 or 5 months. It seems to be kind of the sweet spot right now.
It's great. You give small companies the benefit of being part of a large umbrella corporation.
Right.
Here are these resources.
Yeah, they couldn't
great.
do it on their own. I mean, if they had to do that outside of us, it'd be a lot different number.
Oh, and let me tell you something. In California, there is nothing more satisfying than showing a cop your EO number.
Yeah.
Pop your hood. Boom.
Yeah, that's right.
Here's my sticker.
Yeah.
Close that fucking hood. I'm getting out of here.
That's right. Hey, and look, it's not just going to be engine stuff. I mean, they're looking at brake dust now and what that's doing. They're looking at tire dust. They're looking at all those sort of. I mean, there are discussions about you won't be able to have sticky tires anymore. Because of tire dust. And Is
it the sticky tires that are causing the tire dust, or is it like shitty dry tire,
Or is it just tires?
It's just where is the majority of the tire dust coming from, and can we focus on the big number first and then work on the R compounds later?
Yeah, it's all that is being discussed.
That genuinely. I'm not
for sure.
trying to be a total cynic. I'm not saying make the thing that I like legal and fuck everybody else. I'm saying let's actually look at where the dust comes from.
Because I guess they wear out sooner. They're looking at that. So we don't have enough evidence of all that, what's going on. We do know they're looking at it right now.
Is there a tire dust lab? There must be somewhere, right? There's got to be a test.
So there is through EPA and CARB. They're looking at that, and we are monitoring that to understand what's going on. Brake dust as well. So
Porsche has the PCSB, the Porsche surface coated brakes, which are a steel brake that has a coating on the rotor that has no dust.
No dust.
It's a very, very cool technology that works the same as a steel brake but makes no dust, which is awesome, and the pads last a really long time.
Right. Yeah. So some of that is fueling technology, right?
Yeah.
And understanding what that looks like. So.
Again, I want clean air. I don't want I don't want to breathe in tires.
Right.
But let's start with the big percentage of the pie and then work our way down to the 0.5% of people, that put an R compound on. And by the way, what percentage of R compound tires wear out versus age out?
Right. Yeah. True.
The number of we replace tires here at Westside Collector Car Storage. Almost every set of tires that we replace here, and I'm talking 80%. Are aged out. They're not worn out.
Yeah.
Even R comps.
Yeah.
We just took off a set of R888s dated 2015. They looked like they came off the shelf yesterday. And so that's anecdotal.
Yeah.
But I want to. But let's see the data.
Yeah.
Let's see the data on that.
So we're monitoring that and understanding it. And if we've got to go buy tire equipment, we're going to go buy it. If we've got to do dust equipment,
I'd love to get the numbers on what tires are causing the rubber in the air thing.
Like the brake dust thing, it seems like, they've done these studies. It's really carcinogenic, and it contributes to a lot of particulate matter in the air versus emissions. But it's probably not the sticky Brembos that are doing it. It's brakes in general. So we're learning new things, and then the science can advance going forward. And
we're going to go back to drums.
What's good about what you guys do, of course, is that you can check to make sure, Brembo, or so that performance brakes aren't getting looked at as the bad guy. Right. You go, this is everyone. So if we can all change the science, then we can keep having performance parts.
And look, there's bad players out there. There's stuff that comes in from overseas that may not be they're the $9 brake pads that we probably want to be careful of. But
imagine cheaping out on that.
I know.
Yikes.
I know. It happens.
I know.
Yeah, it happens.
I'm pro ceramic brakes. Last the life of the car.
Right.
Everyone should just get ceramic brakes.
Yeah.
We have, I'm sure, a few on the Patreon, and I want to get to those. But before we do, last question from me for you is, every year it seems like there is a car of SEMA where all the, there's 20 or 30 of them in a variety of different booths. Last year was Bronco for sure. And C8 Corvette. What is it going to be this year?
So good question. Yeah, I think it's going to be Z's.
Yeah.
We had a few last year. I had mine there.
Yeah, they couldn't quite get enough Z's out in time last year, right?
Yeah. I was able to get mine into September, but I think there were 3 there, including one from Nissan. You know? So for sure Z's will be there. Again, the overland thing in general, I think, is going to continue to grow, and you'll see a lot more Corvettes again, maybe some Z06s and Broncos for sure. Mm-hmm. Bronco and Jeep just continue to thrive.
New Mustang, or is that? I know they just unveiled RTRs. Mustangs,
so maybe there'll be a few new Mustangs there. It just depends on how soon they can get them out. It's always that thrash. It's always that. I did show cars for SEMA, when I had my business for years, and you get that car in second week of October. I did a Ford Focus ST for Tanner Faust, when it came out, 2010, I think, or 13, and we got that car 2 weeks before the SEMA show.
Yeah,
and in 5 minutes had it apart and 1,000 pieces, and we were shipping parts back to England and ECUs all over, and had that car, ready the night before the SEMA show, and I swore I'd never do it again.
Yeah.
the next year you're
until
back
next October.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see this year for sure. And there's always something new and wild and different and completely off the, Ring Brothers show up with something crazy.
They're great. I love the Ring Brothers. I think they do beautiful work.
Yeah, they do.
They're amazing, and they're so low key and mellow, and they're very nice guys.
Yeah, that's what I love about our industry.
Yeah, and the work they do is is spectacular. Yeah. Let's go to the Patreon if you want to ask questions of our guests. If you want to get the show live, if you want to get it ahead of time, if you want to have an ad-free listening experience, patreon.com/the Smoking Tire podcast. Lucas says, have you seriously considered renaming the event the Over-Fender Nationals? That we've called SEMA the Over-Fender Nationals before. And we mean it in jest, but that was a big trend for a while. Hasn't really slowed down.
No, it hasn't. And no, we're not. We're gonna continue to call it the SEMA show and now SEMA Fest. But,
although I think a sub, you do the SEMA Awards every year.
We do. Yeah.
So there could be a subcategory that could be partially in jest.
Over-fender?
We may have to consider it.
Yeah, the Over-Fender National Champion, I think, could be funny. And if you need someone to present that award, I will volunteer.
You would do it? Okay,
I'll volunteer myself.
Does it have to be a certain size Over-Fender?
Man, I don't know. I think if the key is to widen the car just by doing a crazy wheel offset and to not actually change the suspension geometry. That's how you really make a car drive great.
You need like a Joan Rivers red carpet, like who wore the Over-Fenders best?
I mean, back in the day, in like 2010, I did a whole video where I just like walked around making fun of bad cars. And of course, there's a pastime of that. There is, there's no barrier to taste. And
listen, I sent my kids to college on a lot of that stuff. So
yeah. They pay the entry fee too.
Did you develop the first TV that you mount to a shock tower?
Yeah, where's the worst place you've seen a screen?
Oh man! Did you see the guy last year that had a Bluetooth logo on his drive shaft? He had the drive shaft missing.
He had
the drive shaft missing, but he had a Bluetooth
drive shaft.
And the people that thought that was real was
that's
hilarious.
Oh,
it was just hilarious.
I like that he embraced it.
Yeah, that's fun. 28.3 never forgets says, what percentage of the cars are actually finished?
Oh.
Tough to say.
Yeah, it is.
Because you can't see.
No, you can't always see. A couple of things going on there is everybody thrashes. They thrash to the last minute. You'll see guys pushing their cars in. I've heard of guys in the back of a trailer, an enclosed trailer, working on the vehicle
while being driven
to the car. It's all that. Even, all these car shows. I mean, if you even talk to Foose, these guys that are building these cars, they do them for the TV show, and then 6 months later, they're finishing them later.
I mean, one of the things that I Pebble Beach is very snooty, but one of the things that I love is that they have to complete the Tour de Elegance, which is a little barrier to entry.
Right.
And one of my favorite moments of SEMA, of the SEMA show, is on Friday when all they have to do is make it from the building to the parking lot, and that is too high of a barrier for a few cars. And it may look great, but that green puddle ain't lying.
No, that's for sure. It's funny you say that because. For years, those cars make it to the show and nobody can see them. And people started lining up Friday night to see the cars coming out so they could see them for the first time, and cameras were going off. So we created that SEMA parade for that reason.
That's my favorite part of the week.
Yeah,
I love it.
But you're right. There are some green puddles on the ground.
Yeah, and I'm not rooting for failure, but it is, it humanizes all of it because a car on a stand under the lights, it's so beautiful and then it goes glub glub,
right?
And either you get to hear you hear this 1,000 horsepower thing going by and it sounds amazing and whatever, and you just see them tear ass up paradise, or it's just a disaster, and you go, oh, well, these people are actually human too, so it brings it down to reality a little bit.
But I will say most of them are good running. I mean, there's always. Look, I did it for years, and two things. You say you'll never do it again. The other thing is I know where all the flaws are, right?
Yeah.
You build these cars, and you know where the flaws are, and you hate it. By the time you get there, you hate the whole project.
Yeah.
And then people love it, and you kind of get pumped back up. And they don't know, they don't know that I, put the wrong bolt in the shock tower.
Same thing with movies.
Right.
Finished movie. That you could see that car in the back.
Yeah.
It's a '96, and the movie's supposed to take place, and nobody really gives a shit.
Right.
Michael Cosgrove says, good question. Anything new and exciting coming soon from the 2022 EPA regulations allowing the low volume manufacturer thing, constructing 325 replica cars per year?
Yeah, we're still fighting that, Michael. It's and actually what's happened now is the engine manufacturers are saying that the regs are too tough. So we got this low manufacturing bill through where, in the past, if you wanted to buy a Cobra, you could buy the body and the
component
vehicle, and then you had to put your own engine and trans in and do the finish work. Well, we were able to get this replica car bill through where those small car manufacturers could actually build the whole car. But then the engine regs came in and made it so hard. I mean, you've got to have the carbon container and all the pieces that have to go with it, and then update that every single year through CARB and EPA. And so Ford and GM and some of the others are just saying, for the volume of business and the compliance that's needed for that, it's tough.
Yeah.
Now you can do it.
Can you still do it the old way?
You can't do it the old way.
Oh, you can't
yes, you can do it the old way.
You can still do
with
it the component thing, right?
And then even on the EV deal, believe it or not, this is where we go crazy, right? This is going to blow your mind in a second. But even if you said, okay, I'm going to take that Cobra and make an EV package and sell EV packages, it has to go through CARB testing.
What are they testing?
So I knew that I'd get that reaction.
I'm serious. What are they testing?
Okay, so what their test is, here's your engine package. You have to put all that in the car, and then you have to, we monitor the charging time for the vehicle and what that takes. And then we actually run it on a trace on the dyno. So it goes from 20 miles an hour up to 60 down to 30. So we have to run this specific trace. How long does it last at a certain temperature? And then run it down to where the battery's down again, and then recharge again. So it has to be able to show that you're not having to constantly recharge the vehicle, that it's got to last a certain amount of time.
Okay, so it's a pretty good faith thing that just establishes that if you advertise this thing as saying it'll go 200 miles, that it actually will.
Yeah.
Okay. So
in the amount of, but you would think that an EV, just doing an EV would be.
Well, the fact that it goes through CARB sounds dumb because it's obviously no emissions, but that's really a consumer protection thing that ensures you're getting some kind of.
And really, it's meant to say, okay, how much electricity are you using?
Yeah.
Right. So, but people would not know that you have to certify an EV.
Yeah, that's kind of it's kind of dumb. I get it.
Right.
It's again niche within a niche. We're talking. What are we talking? 100 cars a year. Yeah, we're talking such a low number of cars. I mean, compared to, just to bring it back, let's say at our annual inspection, you had to have tires that weren't completely bald.
Right.
Nothing new needs to be invented. No, we don't need it. We don't need some life-saving technology. You just have to have a tread. You could use a fucking penny.
Right. That's right.
It can't hit Lincoln's head.
Right. Yeah.
And the number hearing. You live in Southern California. How many people with bald tires have horrible accidents in the rain?
Yeah.
We could literally save lives. We could save traffic. We could save the cars. All kinds of shit if you were required to have tires that were checked. And we even have to do smog. Do it when you do smog check. You're already there.
Yeah.
They've got a form. Add a box.
They have a penny.
They're already
Give them all a penny.
You're already there.
Right.
We could make sure your headlights work.
Right.
Just basic stuff that would help.
They're not fogged over.
Yeah. Okay. Jason, we pretty much covered Jason's question. I assume that was asked before the show, but we pretty much covered that. Last one, Tim says, opinions on the Dodge Charger Banshee EV and eventual production car as the future halo car for the brand. Will the typical Mopar enthusiast be alienated by exclusively EV muscle cars?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Ford's been pretty good. We talked about the Mustang Mach-E earlier, but Ford's been pretty good at making that transition. It's selling better now than the normal Mustang. I know it's a completely different car and a completely different
I don't
thing.
refer to it as Mustang.
Mustang, right?
I really,
right.
I wish it was called Galaxy or
Fusion or something.
Yeah, they had a bunch of other electricity words.
Yeah.
I know why they did it.
Yeah.
It makes sense. The brand of Mustang is more powerful than the brand of Ford, so I totally get it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the same.
No, I mean, look at the the new vets. They're going to have an EV vet. It sounds like, and so that'll be interesting. See,
Well, they've got the hybrid that's coming out this year.
one,
Yeah, the E-Ray.
yeah. And then where does that go, and does it get adapted? And some of the Corvette clubs are already starting to say, no, that's not.
They went back on that.
Did they?
That they originally the first thing there was an announcement that you couldn't bring it to track days.
Right.
But they couldn't really justify why. I think they were.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, they couldn't really justify why. They started to say they were afraid they didn't have the firefighting equipment if there was a battery fire, but it didn't make a lot of sense because they would allow lithium batteries. There was no other restrictions on batteries, and they have other EVs are allowed at other track days, and it's not typically a concern. If a car were to catch on fire at a track day, assuming the person isn't hurt, the car would burn and like it's not like it's going to take down a neighborhood,
right?
And so they very quickly backtracked and they said, yeah. It's not a big battery in the E-Ray; it's a pretty small battery.
Yeah. So we'll see. The whole adoption of EVs is still, we've got a lot of studies on all of that, and overall, there are still, hybrids gone crazy, right? I mean, people are getting the emissions and better fuel mileage and all those sorts of things. Go try to buy a new Camry EV. It's a hybrid. It's up to 6 month wait.
Yeah.
So hybrids are still hot. The EV thing goes up and down. They sold a lot of them in January and February, and then March and April they've fallen off again. So adoption's going to be, I think, slower than people think.
Well, and you need the infrastructure.
Right.
You need people to be confident that the charge network is good.
Yeah, go do that in an apartment complex or a condo complex.
It's just it's
we
cart before the horse a little bit.
Yeah, we got some work to do there for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming. This was a very
thank
interesting
you.
show.
Great to
really
get to hang out with you. And
I will see you in November.
Yeah,
I'm sure we will be at the show,
or hopefully we get Newcombs back up before then.
Well,
the road.
The road is a disaster right now. Our friend Jay Ryan was just up there with a special event. They allowed a few people up because they're trying to sell it.
Right.
Which, by the way, trying to sell a very expensive property,
$7 million or something,
and the road being blocked to get there is a bit of a problem. Yeah. And the wood up here is really nice, but how do I get down exactly?
Yeah.
I when we were expanding to a second location, I considered buying that place.
Did you?
Yeah, because I thought we could do a thing up there,
that would have been fun.
a permanent location. But then I thought about every single truckload of materials having to drive 27 miles up from, and I was like, I don't have 30 years to do this.
Well, maybe we'll see it at a track or something.
I hope
or
whoever does
Coffee
buy it, does something.
Something
cool and car related with it, because it would be a shame to turn it into a spa or something.
I know.
Although a massage up there would be all right.
After you ride, driving in your Lotus, right?
Yeah, you ride your motorcycle up there, get a little Swedish massage, 60-minute before heading down. That'd be okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you in Vegas in the fall.
Thank you for everything.
coming.
And thanks for letting us
Appreciate your time, Mike. Okay. And thank you to our patrons for your questions. And we're back tomorrow for the live people, Friday at 8 a.m.? It's early, I think. 8 or 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow with David Twigg, who is a journalist with the Intercooler right now, and he was also the lead engineer on cars such as the Alpine A110, the Renault Zoe, and the Nissan Qashqai. Is it Qashqai or it's not QU.
I think it's
Qashqai.
Which became the Rogue here, basically.
Yeah, I really need to ask him who came up with that name, because that name stinks. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later.
All right.